Now for the closing session. So if I may invite the colleagues to open your screens. Let's see if we have everyone who is supposed to be here, and maybe the ones from previous sessions. Close your videos just so we are, yeah. So I see Geni.
Hi.
Our executive director. I see Paulo, our vice chair. He just needs to clean his whiteboard, get the logos in shape. I see Yasunori Mochizuki from NEC. Hello, Yasunori. I see Vincent Demortier from France. I see Merlin, Chatwin from Open North, and with a little bit of luck, we also see Ugo Valenti. Where is Can we get you here? There you are, Ugo. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming and for, can I say, stopping by. I'm just going to take a family photo because we miss you. We could, of course, be together with you, Ugo, back in November in Barcelona. I think you consider yourselves very lucky that you got this moment in time where you could actually have people meet. We miss it. We miss you. We miss the atmosphere of being in the same room, and well, it will come back very soon. So thanks everyone for stopping by. We will hear your vision from what has been, well, where are we now? What the heck are smart city communities anyway? We have been talking about this since at least a decade, but de facto probably half a century, when we started to learn what technologies can do and the impact they're having on our lives. But something has happened. I mean, with the virus, clearly we now see a shift. With the crisis we have, we also see the coupling of what we can do with, oh, we have crises, maybe we can address them, whether it's climate, whether it's, you know, staying sane as a global community. So I'm really hoping that this session can bring some perspective on that. So may I invite you, Paulo, as chair to vice chair, maybe just to give just a welcome here to the colleagues, and then to Geni, and then we give the floor to you, Yasunori.
Very briefly, just to mention and to highlight what you have precisely said, that we are working on all these topics for at least 10 years, but the truth is that nowadays we are really able to see this on the ground and the impact in the daily life of our citizens. So I'm really excited for all what happened on these 3 days of intensive work, and I'm really looking forward for this closing session. It's not a kind of closing the parties, is a working session as well. So I'm really looking forward to talk with our colleagues that are present here, and then in the end to share some thoughts of what we are planning to do in the near future.
Thanks, Paulo.
No, I just first of all like to thank everyone who has joined us for these past 3 days, the panelists and guests and the moderators, because what makes OASC great is the fact that we really have the community leaning in. And it's been great to see that what has come out of these 3 days will help direct what we are going to be doing over the next couple of years. So thank you guys for your contribution. And I hope we'll be able to invite you again for future events.
Thanks. So Yasunori, would you like to start and give us a little bit of outlook from where you sit? You've been around for some time, so I hope it's self-explanatory why you are here and also who you are, but please, the floor is yours.
So again, many thanks, Martin, for the introduction and also for inviting me to this closing session. It's truly my great honor. And here's my congratulations, first of all, to the big success of this year's CxC Festival. Actually, I really like your idea to name this year's event CxC, where C stands for multiple meanings, as I'm right now speaking from Tokyo. And as NEC's technical visions and activities were already covered in the Get Practice session held on Tuesday, I'll talk here about some higher-level perspectives viewed through the lens of an industry player from Japan. Okay, So just briefly, NEC is a platinum member of Fire Foundation, contributing to this community via technology development and business adoption, also via the standardization of NGS-ILD in ETSI. And of course, NEC is also very much proud to be the enterprise partner of OASC. And yes, we are industry players, but NEC and perhaps many Japanese companies have corporate cultures, not just to focus on maximizing profit, but also to harmonize business activities with the well-being of our society. And example is our corporate mission, a commitment of NEC here I'm showing. And because of this, the learning from the OASC network activities are indeed very valuable also to us in thinking how we can best contribute to the society. Now, let me look back to the year of 2021, what it meant to the digital transformation of societies. As actually pointed out by Mr. Thomas Kordas of European Commission in the opening session, there has been a global scale acceleration of digitalization and digital twin approach as seeing the COVID pandemic and climate change issues. And this was indeed the case also for Japan. The Super City Call, which is a big project which aims at front runner showcase in Japan, was something that Tak Nagumo-san, also who is the OASC Japan coordinator, highlighted in last year's C/C Festival. And digital agency in the central government started in September to accelerate and harmonize digitalization of Japan's government services. And now a big budget is planned to be allocated to the Green Society agenda that was also announced in 2021. And the Super City Called asked the applying cities in Japan to consider national government's open guideline on data exchange mechanism, which is the open API approach, and with the decentralized data broker architecture, so that advanced digital services can be connected and efficiently replicated among cities. The idea is actually quite consistent with the overarching vision of Japan's Society 5.0 that was announced earlier in 2016. The Society 5.0 is trying to vitalize digital economy, but also to address societal issues, for instance, in rural communities that are facing a common kind of challenges due to aging populations in Japan. Therefore, the cross-regional, cross-sectoral data and service federation have been constantly encouraged in the recent smart city agenda of Japanese government. As a consequence, there are already a rapidly increasing number of cities or regions that are planning adoption of FireWare on top of those already started using it. So you see them as black dots on this map. It's a good news, right? Because not only these cities are making themselves interoperable, but also their interoperability mechanism is globally harmonized under MIMS for potential future collaboration. The cities that already adopted FireWare have also started to collaborate beyond city boundaries. Takamatsu implemented their data exchange platform called Takamatsu Common IoT Platform in 2018. And their platform is now under a shared use by two neighboring municipalities called Kanonji and Ayagawa in the domain of disaster handling for integrated management with better preparedness. For local mobility and tourism, the two cities of Toyama and Takamatsu demonstrated an efficiency verification of the same app on FireWare-based city OS in different areas. This idea looks actually very much similar to what was done earlier in Synchronicity project in Europe. So the next slide envisions how NEC's business offerings will contribute to the digitalization of society. In the super city policy that I mentioned, the government also asked cities to implement digital services in multiple domains, hopefully more than 5, to enhance the well-being of community. And many of such services of public or semi-public characters are provided by both public agencies and private business players. Well, NEC has been working for cities via City OS with MIM compliant data exchange platform. Private businesses in the community service domains often tend to be the NEC's B2B customers, to which we have been providing advanced technology solutions over years, such as AI, cybersecurity, communication network, including 5G. So naturally, these private business players are also increasingly interested in the interoperable data exchange mechanism across domains. Thus, the public-private co-creation triggered by Japan's Super City Call is very likely to bring an opportunity to NEC for further strengthening the relationship with industrial players to come up with more scalable and citizen-centric cross-industry services. Meanwhile, NEC is also participating in innovation activities in Europe as a subject of urban digital twin and green transition is very important to NEC and also to Japanese cities. The specific slide I'm showing is what's called a SEF project, salted, situational linked heterogeneous enriched data. But NEC's research team in Heidelberg is also working in the SEF project called ODALA, and worked earlier in the synchronicity project, of course. So NEC does have a suite of cutting-edge AI technologies, which actually received IDC's recognition as a major player in the worldwide AI service market. And in urban digital twin, we indeed expect that all the relevant capabilities should be integrated. And what I mean by this are the interoperable and open sharing of data under trust, and efficient handling of semantics and AI for both total optimization of society and individuals' well-being. In recent years, it's good to see lots of smart city activities also in Japan. However, according to the government's report, many of smart cities projects are still in the pilot phase, and only a small fraction of them are moved into the real social implementation phase in a sustainable way. The barrier in between, and that is making this transition difficult, consists of various factors such as being slow in building social acceptance, regulatory complexity, and lack of financial sustainability. But overcoming this barrier is crucial in improving citizen well-being and also enabling market growth, both of which are important to private business. The importance of addressing such a non-technical aspect was also intensively discussed in Japan's smart city architecture in its section called City Management. And the government later made a more intensive discussion by inviting a diverse range of people from local governments, academia, civic techs, and industry, and to come up with a publication called the Smart City Guidebook. And this is where industry will still largely benefit from, will also largely benefit from NIMS. That brings that bridges demand side requirements and technical specifications. And I have a big expectation on further progress in NIMS, including the aspects such as trust and transparency, okay? So by the way, such a barrier must be much lower in a nation already advanced in digitalization, just like that Denmark. Actually, KMD, a leading IT provider in Denmark, has become an NEC-owned company since 2019. KMD has been working over decades for the nationwide public sector digitalization in Denmark, and its experience and knowledge coming out of the Danish digitalization journey is indeed of a very high value also to the digitalization of public administration in Japan. In the meantime, NEC, with its technical experience in Fireware, is now collaborating with KMD in its smart city contribution called OS2 IoT and green digital twin projects such as Twin for Build for Danish communities. Thus, I believe that this kind of KMD by NEC is another symbol for European and Japanese collaboration. The most recent smart city initiative in Japan, as I have outlined, is really strengthening multi-stakeholder collaboration between local government, private businesses, and civic activities. The practice share and service federation between regions will accelerate via the MIMS adoption by cities and also via private business services that often operate across territories. And this mesh type of relationships really is something that truly appreciates the power of MIMS as the urban digital system become more and more highly federated in an open and dynamic way. The collaboration also has to be across diverse expertise. Of course, to come up with better solutions, but also to overcome existing issues in making a transition from pilots to the real social implementation. And global sustainability must be something that can be achieved when C of CxC, C by C is read as countries or even continents. And I hope OASC will be the leading driving force and the meeting place for the collaboration between citizens, cities, and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yasunori. We make a little clap here, and you can perhaps hear the resounding all over. Well, you have some high expectations, I think, on that final note. We're happy to, of course, convene where we can, but this is exactly why bringing you, the four of you here together, is so important, because I guess Ugo has a little bit bigger stage. and then we will also, I mean, hear how, well, to say the least, and we'll also hear how the regional footprint, the local footprint is so necessary, the global as well. Thank you so much for sharing this, and we will come back. I mean, there's so many things still needing to get well to the next level. But thanks, Yasunori, again also for being here.
My pleasure, Martin.
So maybe taking the view not from a global company, but from where it all comes together, well, in the suburb, if I may say, so not center urban and not rural, but around these many different types. Please share your views, and a warm welcome here also.
Thank you, Martin. So yes, indeed, I'm here in the name of an association of entrepreneurs located in northern France that is called Faubourg Numérique. And this association is acting as a digital innovation hub in order to support a wide variety of local stakeholders to manage innovative processes and working together, especially from SMEs, but also we have links with academic and university. And one of the activity also is to serve the public sector and to work, of course, with local governments. And on a very operational level, we have been involved since the beginning of this network in the Faubourg community as a digital innovation hub, also to connect with other organizations like us in other regions. And well, about what we have learned and what we would like to share is that I think there is a very important challenge, as you introduced, Martin, for local stakeholders to get engaged in this very challenging future that we have to face, and to better have a good understanding on what is going on at the global level. I think it's very clear for a wide majority of citizens, but also of local policymakers and also entrepreneurs, that we will have to decide what will be how we are going to switch for a new kind of society and organization. And we have this driver at the global level from the United Nations, but also, of course, from the European Commission. And how this global strategy can be translated into regional and local strategy, and at the end, how it will be possible to make the top-down and bottom-up efforts to converge to maximize the impact and the synergies. So that's our, let's say, understanding of what we can bring, and especially towards the smaller, I would say, the smaller stakeholders in terms of local governments, but of course also in terms of enterprises and innovators. And also from a more technical point of view, sorry, it's also sometimes difficult to figure out how we can use and take the best of the mature or the emerging technologies, because it's so fast, it's evolving very fast. So it can be difficult and of course challenging to choose and to get engaged in the usage of this technologies. So that's also what we experience in our projects and collaboration at the local level, but also at the more global level through European projects, as Yasunori explained before. And also this challenge of the usage of the technology is the idea of building some new assets and to consider these new digital or virtual assets as common. And it's important also to have a very controlled governance of these new commons, and of course a public control about these commons where we are talking about smart territories. So a way to manage these challenges that we have applied here is to connect with the global initiatives and global networks and to identify the most relevant resources and try to contribute to these shared resources. And of course, the memes are the one of the most important resources that we have found for many years, and we try to contribute to enrich the experience around the memes and this definition through, of course, our involvement in the OASC network, and also through the Living in EU initiatives with this involvement of private supporters. And again, in terms of implementation, it's also very interesting that the evolution of the firmware community is really aligned with these, let's say, societal challenges that are taken into account in the public sector. So that's our positioning, and we really want to contribute to build this regional capacity. And again, we think that this possibility and this policy that is supporting through the Digital Europe program is for us a good way to contribute and to reinforce our local actions and to participate to this big picture. And from very concrete point of view, we are now very busy to build up the European Digital Innovation Application from France within the Summity initiative in the region of Paris and also in the northern region called Hauts-de-France. We are acting on 2 regions, so this is our vision and let's say very enthusiastic contribution to the global picture. That's it for me.
Thank you, Vincent, and also for bringing now the complementary view from, let's say, the ground. Maybe we should also mention here that you have been actually, I think, quite successful in also influence the national agenda. So your contribution to the French and now the EU presidency activity program here is quite remarkable. So just to add that yes, of course, the regions are where things end in a way, but it's also where they should start, right? So it should be this virtuous loop where the different levels work together. So if we may now go, should we say, Merlin, to the middle? So not the global scene as such, and not the entirely one region, but really, you know, the country level and what you're doing in Canada. It's been amazing to follow, and I know you're a little bit new in the seat, well, sort of. So it's been inspiring to see also well, even the difference between what the US is doing and what Canada is doing vis-a-vis sort of the other global regions. So we heard now from Yasunori what Japan is doing, but there's also differences really in the different regions. We heard a lot from Europe as well. So welcome and thanks for joining this global panel, and we really look forward to hearing what you see and especially what you would like to inspire us to do with you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the invitation and being on such an esteemed panel. And yeah, it's interesting hearing the other presenters in its a very sort of global perspective, and I feel like we do have a national perspective, but a national perspective of the hyper local, because we have a national program that is designed for us to support with hands-on support at the local level, and that is the larger cities, but also down into the very rural areas. And what does smart cities, what does digital transformation look like at that level? So just by way of stepping back, Open North is a values-driven nonprofit organization that works with public, private, and research partners, as well as community stakeholders, to foster effective, responsible, and collaborative use of data and technology to solve complex problems. That's our three-line elevator pitch. And we're a Canadian-based organization with partners and clients globally, but I think my unique perspective today is really about the Canadian context for digital transformation in service to creating an open and smart communities. So just a bit for the Canadian context to set the stage for most of you that are outside of Canada. Our federal system puts most of the decision-making power over our 3,700 local governments into the hands of the provincial and territorial governments. So what that's meant is that a lot of these provincial responsibilities have been downloaded to these local governments, but without the revenue and resources to adequately fund or to just fulfill the mandate. And so the result is a local system with significant capacity and resource deficits, and this is pre-COVID. So we add a global pandemic, we see the consequences of an under-resourced system. So the way that we frame it here in Canada is that COVID really didn't create any new challenges for local government. It just really highlighted the challenges that already existed and really laid bare the consequences. And so now the initial shock of the pandemic is subsiding, and local governments are beginning to focus on the long road of adaptation because it's not going anywhere. Their adaptation and recovery are sort of one and the same now. And there's more of an appetite to address the digital capacity gaps that have been exposed. But many of our local governments really don't know where to start. And so this creates a bit of a risk of being over-dependent on external consultants without the local knowledge. And traditional IT processes at the local government level in Canada are outdated and insufficient. And I think that's probably a theme that resonates around the world. So our role for the last few years at Open North, one of the avenues that we have to support Canadian communities has been as the lead technical provider for a federally funded initiative called the Community Solutions Network. And it's a program created to support communities across Canada who applied to a federal Smart Cities Challenge in 2018. And so for us, the open smart communities and really aligned with the open and agile, go beyond technology-driven services and infrastructure. It involves a real shift in mindset. And instead of vendor-led and this idea of the techno-solutionism, we promote an approach to solving public problems that's rooted in meaningful engagement with residents, where local solutions are supported by data-enabled tech rather than led by it or driven by it. So what are the main challenges? And we've seen that digital transformation looks different from community to community, and it's informed by, or needs to be informed by, local histories and resident needs. So we take a problem-driven approach. And we've compiled these findings in a report that it's actually the second version of a report called Open Smart Cities in Practice. And so that'll be released in the next month or so. And so I wanted to just highlight for us today three significant challenges that we're reflecting on as we pursue this work. The first major challenge of digital transformation is really in laying the groundwork for residents to be able to meaningfully participate and share in the benefits of digitalization. So how is the tech and how are smart cities actually benefiting or easing the burden of residents? And so we saw COVID-19 saw cities accelerate the digitalization of communications, operations, service provision, but also alongside digital transitions that were more broadly experienced, like employment and remote work and education, even socialization. And we know that these impacts do not affect all residents equally. And there's a digital divide that already exists within and across cities, and it's just been amplified when your entire life now is dependent on technology and access to internet. It amplifies those who have and those who have not. The second one is creating enabling conditions to allow data to drive decision making. And some of these common challenges facing communities in working with data include a lack of data literacy, a lack of usable high quality data, and absent or underdeveloped governance frameworks to enable the effective use. And so often the data that is needed to support effective local governments is held outside of their control. And there's a real inability to know how and when to access that. And then for data that is created and governed at the local government level, there's a lack of coordination and standardization. And this has been a long challenge in Canada, particularly with its federated form of government and multiple levels of jurisdiction. It's led to a lack of comprehensive and high quality data to solve regional challenges. And then there's also a limited organization-wide understanding of the value of data assets, why it's being collected, generated in the first place, and how it supports mission critical objectives. And then the third one is rethinking public procurement of digital technology. And I think, again, that this probably resonates and has been discussed. Traditional procurement led by IT departments, not optimized for procuring digital technologies that are meant to address complex community challenges. We need to have subject matters who have some deep understanding of the problem to be solved. They need to play a bigger role in procurement. And then tying in the conversation that we've heard already about MIMS is that we know that standardization and interoperability need to be considered even at the procurement stage. And so the OASC MIMS aligns with our approach here. And we know that standardization is important, but we don't want to create barriers by setting unattainable standards that lower capacity communities might not be able to meet. So yeah, just wrapping up, ultimately, you know, we've observed some really promising initiatives, dedicated public servants, and there are systemic and structural challenges that you know that you can't always be overcome by individual teams and efforts of committed public servants. And there's a need for the multi-level governance approach, both vertically and horizontally, more data-informed collaboration with local institutional actors, and this tying into the global supports, as was just mentioned as well. I'll leave it there.
Well, it sounds easy. So you have like you know, 3 main points, but poof, it's like Pandora's box, right? You start the thread and you pull, and then, well, you got the whole. I don't know if you can see it, but this is all the logos of our members. So you suddenly you have everything, and that's the whole point. But thanks also for being so focused on the variety of needs, because communities are different. There are actually local politicians who would want to influence what happens. It's not just a bureaucratic exercise. Thanks for highlighting this participatory and diversity perspective, which I think resonates with everything. And certainly the federated non-federated setup, I mean, Europe can relate, I'm sure. So Ugo, you're 1 year ahead of us. This is the 9th annual conference here. Well, we had one in 2010, then a short hiatus, and then we've had there. So you're ahead of us, not only in size, but also in convening power and being able to look around the landscape. What's there, who's not there, and what paths do we have to follow? Thank you so much for joining us here today. And it's really a privilege to be able to link, you know, the two conversations and to embrace the insane variety of perspectives you can add here. So please share your thoughts with us, and thanks for coming.
Thanks very much, Martin, Geni. It's a real honor being here. Hi, everybody. So as Martin said, we have been working on this since 10 years. We started in 2011 with the Smart City Expo Congress and trying to help to create cities that we would all love to live in. So today I wanted to share with you a little retrospective on what has been going on for the past 10 years and what we see in the present and the near future as well. So we believe that we live in a world with two huge realities, and that reality number one is that this is the century of cities. As you know, the world population is growing quite a lot. I remember that when we started the event in 2011, we were a little bit over 5,000 million people. Right now, we are almost at 7,000 million people, and by 2050, we will be 10,000 million people in the world living together. But another issue and another added situation here is that right now 57% of the population live in urban areas, and by 2050 70% of this population will be living in urban areas. And you can see here the growth that the world has been facing. This is the urban population by 1950. They changed by 1990, so you could see that it was already starting to become an urban world. Right now, this is the current situation, and by 2050, this will be the reality for the world and the urban world itself. And here you can see the gap between population living in rural and urban areas. So in 2007, 50% of the population was already living in urban areas, and this is only going to grow. So on top of that, we are seeing, and we can see that there's a huge shift of population growing in both Africa and Asia. Those are the curves that we can see right now. So even if Latin America, Europe, and Northern America are staying more or less flat, you can see the huge changes of urban population shifting in Asia and Africa. So that means that in 40 years, in the next 40 years, we are going to build as many new cities as in all human history. Or in other terms, we're going to build one New York City every month for the next 40 years. So this is something like difficult to imagine, but it's happening. It's really happening. This is causing, of course, a lot of stress on resources. This is the stress level of resources on cities right now. You can see that basically the whole world can be applied to the whole world. And this will cause huge problems. So people moving from rural to urban areas increases, of course, the stress level of cities. And on top of that, we are facing another problem, which is that our population is aging. On 2015, a little bit over 12% of the population in the whole world was 60 or older. But by 2050, this is gonna almost double. So when you add a bigger amount of population, living in urban areas, and 20-something% of this population being 60 or over, that really explains that we're going to face some troubles in the future. So reality number one is that this is the century of cities. But reality number two is that, of course, and this has been discussed at the CxC festival all over these 3 days, it's that this is the era of the digital transformation. And we all know that we as people are hyper connected right now. We are able to have this online festival thanks to this connectivity. And I'm very glad for that. But it's not only people, it's plenty of machines are being connected right now. Those are the numbers for the Internet of Things. in the year 2000, only 0.5 billion machines were connected. And now you can see what's happening. More than 50 billion machines are connected between themselves. So this is a huge change on the way that we live. And this is causing also a huge shakeout on the reality of a new economy. And there's a new economy of data. And this is the market capitalization of the 5 largest companies all around the world in 2010 and right now in 2020. You can see that the value of these new companies is much bigger than 10 years ago. But you can also see that the 5 companies right now are basically in the business of data, in the business of software, in the business of digitalization. And this is a huge shakeout on the business model that we're facing right now in the world. We could say that data is the new oil, right? So when you mix up the century of cities and the era of digital transformation, you can see that this is a brand new world. In just 10 years, it's a world of smart cities. It's a world of smart cities. What did we see 10 years ago when we were talking about smart cities and when we created Smart City Expo or Congress? Is that smart cities were mostly, and let me say that, were mostly discussed on PowerPoints. We were mostly discussing about technology and about applying data and sensors everywhere. And we were thinking about creating sci-fi cities, maybe even dystopian cities sometimes, right? But this has changed quite a lot, because today the conversation is citizen-centric. It's all around how do we create cities to help us live better lives. So technology is a means to an end and not an end on itself. And this has changed completely the whole conversation. Let me put just a couple of examples. So Shenzhen, right, in the 80s was basically a small village, and with this new world has changed completely to a vibrant, wonderful city with plenty of green spaces and a huge amount of technology as well, but it's dedicated to the well-being of their citizens. Or another example of an already existing city, which is New York. This was part of New York before the High Line was applied. So plenty of cities are changing their whole shape and their whole layout to make sure that they can improve their lives of citizens. So wrapping up here, it's that what we have learned in these past 10 years is that the shift in demographics is causing strains on the resources of the cities and its infrastructure. There's also a huge competition for bringing talent, and we have to add an aging society. That in the future, talent and technology and climate change are going to be the key shapers of the cities of our future. We have also learned that the perfect city doesn't exist. Everybody asks me, what is the smartest cities in the world? Every city is smart on its own, because it's completely different what's happening on right now in Copenhagen than what's going on in Dubai or in Delhi. The starting point is completely different. But the most important thing is that we need to put the citizen at the center and create and use technology to create smart cities that will give us a better life. And I hope that we can help you create cities that we would have loved to live in. Okay, so thank you very much, and a pleasure again.
Again, I would like to thank all the members of the panel in this closing session. You know, I have been privileged that for the past 3 days, I have listened to some of the smartest, most brilliant, and coolest people on the planet. However, it has also made me waver between, oh my God, so many problems we have to solve, and the world is not going to stop and wait for us to solve them. But I decided I'm gonna decide to be hopeful about it, because the fact that brilliant minds like yours are working on the same problems means that we're going to get close to a solution. And I think that's where open and agile smart cities can use your help in. We are, as Yasunori-san said, the meeting place. But for us to be effective in what we do, we need people like you to lean in and help us, you know, find the answers to the questions that are facing all of us. And I think because we're a very small organization by design, we also have to be agile in how we respond to the needs of our community. And I think for that, I default to the smart city landscape that we work in. We really have to be smart to figure out the best way to address all of these problems. Like I said, the world is not going to end. Data has become, I forget what Ugo said about data is like the new, I forgot, sorry, my memory is so bad.
Oil.
Yeah, new oil. No, I actually think my suggestion is to think of it as the new water. You know, it's something that you think everyone should have access to, something that's ubiquitous, and companies are starting to sell it. And I think that's going to become a problem if we're not smart about how we handle it. Because for the next few years, I mean, I think there's no one in the world who doesn't believe that data is going to be the foundation of the new economy. We are all there. And if we want to really make sure that digital transformation becomes the great equalizer, then we have to be very realistic about our relationship with data and how we as private citizens, again, like I said, I identify with the average person because I'm not tech gurus like most of you are. I am interested in how data that's collected about me is used to deliver services that will go again, that will contribute to making cities that are wonderful to live in. My question then, because I don't want to waste any more of your time, my question then is, what do you think? What commitments can we count on people like you to solve the problems that are concretely facing us? Because, you know, it's so easy to get lost in flowery promises, but what concrete commitments should people like you and me make to make sure that digital transformation happens in a way that's fair and equitable and green for everyone?
Open to the panel. You don't even have to raise your hand. You can just start talking. Ugo.
From my side, just a couple of things. It's my mission, our mission as a Smart City Expo Congress is to put together and to exchange learnings between the people that is really leading these changes, and to offer them a wonderful showcase so that everybody understands what's going on. From my side, my commitment for showcasing these new wonderful technologies is that we're going to make sure that we only showcase the good technologies and technology for the good and not for the bad, because we don't want to create dystopian cities. Hopefully those will be utopian cities, but not dystopian cities. And we need to avoid technology that serves the big brother, or technology that is used not for the good. This is my main commitment that I can do right now.
So if I may, maybe so tech companies like NEC, but we, as I shown in the last slide, the companies should also seriously think about expanding the collaboration in a multi-stakeholder way, because something that you mentioned there, I was actually very interested that our presentations all talk something about the challenges, and and for instance, I'm also working for OECD, where the government policy makers get together globally. But on the digital economy committee, a digital economy policy committee, I mean, it's really hard for policymakers just make a next set of good policies that fits the digital world. And what they're doing is that NEC is acting as an organization, OECD's mirror organization called Business at OECD, where private companies get together. And the committee is actually really keen to listen to the evidence-based and practical use case and the pains in moving into the digitalized world. The other type of multi-stakeholder collaboration is probably to think more about more open culture. I mean, European interoperability framework, of course, includes the cultural interoperability, but I do think that cultural interoperability is very important in the sense of digital capability, like internet culture or open source culture, which is still in a very early stage in Japan. But some cities actually started, I mean, cities are facing the difficulty in hearing the voices of citizens, how they could better hear the voices. And now this certain city and now multiple cities started to using interesting the Decidim platform, which actually came out from Barcelona. Of course, the civic tech guys, they worked hard to make it into Japanese platform. So not only cities, and actually, to my surprise, the Smart City guidebook that was facilitated by the central government, the ministry team also implemented Decidim to have the, you know, diverse discussion to come up and so this kind of cultural change is also very important in driving the transition. And of course, this means that the industries should also, you know, be aware of the importance that the broader range of stakeholders work together. And this is actually what people in NEC are now really thinking about moving forward.
And I would like also to add regarding this necessity to be open and culture wide. I would say what we can expect from our experience and what we can expect from OASC in particular is to keep these commons affordable for a very wide audience. So it means also keep it accessible, keep it understandable, and at the end, I would say keep it minimal.
Well, here. So Merlin, how do you think? I mean, so is it easy to identify these commitments? You talked about, you know, now you know what's wrong. Do they then come, or, you know, do you need pressure from the bottom, from the top, from all sides? I mean, how do you get those commitments?
Yeah, yes, and yes. You know, I think when I listening and reflecting, I think you know, our commitment, and I think the commitment of broad organizations is to continue to identify these as not problems that are going to be solved. They're complex, they're wicked challenges that are going to need to be addressed day after day, year after year, and because they're often systemic. And so I think the role and the commitment of organizations that sit outside is to be able to be that voice to say, we need these tensions. We need local government to be able to push back and have the necessary support and resources of provincial or regional governments. We need national governments to recognize the barriers that they're putting onto other forms of government. We need even local governments to recognize the barriers that they put on to civil society and other organizations and private sector that heed the collaboration that's necessary. And so I think it's for us to just be able to, with the experience of helping and being on the ground, to be able to pull back and say, okay, so here's the systemic challenges that are happening, and here's these creative tensions that we need to continue to maintain in order to allow for these problems, these challenges to be addressed day after day.
I'm going to borrow that phrase from now on to describe everything: creative tensions. Thanks, Merlin.
But also,
I don't own it, but you're welcome to it.
No, but it's also it's recognized that we need something from the overall. Well, I mean, just standing here, I got, like, you know, breaking news. So Poland is talking of war. You know, the world isn't kind of just hunky-dory finding a way. So Ugo, I mean, having, you know, the reality that the cities, that the local priorities are so important. I mean, we also need then to get it to work, because it's not also right, Merlin. It's not accepted if something is just pushed, you know, here, make it work. I mean, it really has to be a flow or a loop of something. So well, we also have to rely, I think, on the cities and communities to come together. So maybe that's also a commitment, even though, I mean, no mayor is elected to help the next door, right? They're elected to help you, but there's a bigger picture and all of that. Paulo, do you want to challenge the colleagues, share your views? I mean, you are every day tasked with making this work in Porto. Also, you represent, all the members in OASC as the Council of Cities coordinator, with Roland from Rotterdam and Brigitte in Vienna supporting you. But do you have something to put on the table here now that we have the brilliant minds?
Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Yeah, the usual muting. Well, I have some notes that I would like to share with everyone regarding the 21 sessions that we have, on a kind of a wrap-up that can work as well as an invitation for the work that we're planning. But I have a question especially for Merlin and for Yasunori, which is regarding all this effort that we at OASC are putting on creating these bridges all across the globe. I have been traveling to Portland, to Brazil, Martin is always around the globe. We have this amazing work with our colleagues from South Korea, for instance. But in the end, it's a huge effort, and we are talking about very different perspectives that usually we find. My question, especially for Merlin, as I've said, and for Yasunori, which is kindly always visiting us in Europe, is if you really think that we still should continue putting our energy here and traveling across the globe, trying to find out these minimal breaches between all our globe. How do you see this approach?
I mean, I think that it's more important than ever. I think that maybe the traveling is less important because we have the technology to be able to do it this way. But I mean, again, there isn't a blueprint that you can import from Barcelona to Vancouver, right? But there's a philosophy, and there's an approach, and there are principles, and how those principles play out in different communities around the world. Those are lessons for us all to learn, and how to anticipate the challenges, and how to anticipate the complexity and the tensions that emerge. Those are all lessons that we don't need to learn hundreds of thousands of times over in each individual community, in each individual municipality. And so I think there are some, there are some frameworks that we can create for understanding based on, federated versus unitary, and the systems of decentralization, and the systems of taxes, and different political and public participation. And so, we can get really important lessons from cities that on the surface don't look at all like the ones that we're representing. But I think that there's also this, it's really helpful for cities, and especially from the political, it's helpful to not be first, but to be second, right? And so you often hear people don't want to take the lead because there's a political risk there. But if somebody else has done it and there's been success, but not everybody has done it, then there's some impetus to be able to say, like, we're early on this bandwagon. We're not first. They took the risk, but we're early on. And I think sharing those lessons is really important. And I think we also, from a global perspective, need to get more real about sharing what doesn't work, right? Because we don't need to learn those lessons hundreds of thousands of times over either. And really understanding the context within which attempts have not succeeded, and what do we learn from that, and what do we learn from some of our assumptions about the necessary conditions that were present that didn't hold true. And so I think that there's the real, my bias is showing, so I've got a monitoring and evaluation background, and so there really needs to be some really data-informed, data-led analysis that is demonstrating what works and what didn't work, and finding the places where things fell apart because of contextual factors and assumptions that we made that were not holding true. And again, I think those are global.
Great, if you allow me, and before going to Yasunori, I think that we have here a great idea for the Hugo, for the Smart City Expo, which could be create a failure corner, a place where everyone that is failing, trying to deploy things, can share with others all these failures, because I agree with you. It's very important to give the other side of implementing this kind of approaches, because everyone fails. Let's assume that. But I would say that, well, it's not easy to find someone that is really willing to share the failure. So Yasunori.
Globally applicable MIMS, probably. I mean, the current idea of how to expand the range of MIMS is great, and particularly for the MIMS 4 and 5, personal data management of area. This started by looking at the kind of a champion cities, right? Which is doing a good practice. So, I mean, finding out a good practice would be very useful to have a good idea how to work to improve MIMS, and then there might be some difference in the world. I mean, European cities might be very quick and eager to become the champion in developing new MIMS, but many cities in Japan, some cities are really, I mean, the good cities with good practice don't tend to be the richest cities in the country, but sometimes the small size cities are really doing good things about handling the pains, and but such cities tend to be rather silent. I mean, as soon as they do good things, they just get satisfied and not trying to speak to the world. So this kind of effort is really important, might be which might be useful when we go into a country like Japan. I also heard from Chris Greer, a NIST in the United States, that similar kind of situation, that he actually said that a certain city official said that we are not trying to be the #1 smart city in the US. We want to be the second. So, so how to collect and distill the good practices out of the cities all over the world might require some different approach, but the fundamental will be the good practice or the championing cities, I think.
Thank you, Yasunori, also for being very concrete, for bringing this to the minimal interoperability level. I mean, there's work going on. We've had here presentations of people trying to do standards and minimal standards. Someone has to do it, and it's really difficult to get this view, Merlin, that you put in, to get this. I mean, sure, Ugo, we want these cities, but there seems to be a gap. We had very nice presentation, I think, from Slovenia, showing exactly, everything from the Gartner hype cycle to the, how their strategies map onto this. But there is a gap. There is a gap between what we need to do yesterday and what also the market can offer us. Because who pays for that gap? Who pays? So did you want to say something? I mean,
no, it was just to pick up on what Paulo was suggesting, that we fail more often than we succeed, and there is a lot of value in teaching others what to avoid. I am a big fan in not doing things that have been done before, and I would like to do that with failing as well. And I think that's something that we have to be more open about, especially within this community, because for a large part, we are working in uncharted territories, and failure will always be an option. We just have to embrace failure as part of being human.
We had a colleague earlier in one of the sessions who, as part of his bio, said, I have been in more failing projects than successes. It was in his bio. I think that was a very great, offer to others to learn. So we're coming a little bit towards the end. So maybe we could take a round of reflections.
Martin just raised his hand.
Yes. I actually did notice. Thank you. Well, you can go first, Merlin, with any comment you had there, but also maybe try and leave for all of us. I mean, this is a closing session. What should we work on? Because we, Paulo, Geni, and I, everyone are looking on prioritizing scarce resource, as you said, Ugo. So where should we put our effort? That would be great to hear as sort of a wrapping up. So Merlin, you have it. You have the first.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I was just reacting to this idea of failure it goes back to again to this monitoring and evaluation idea of making your failures small and rapid, right? And I think that's what I would close with, is if we can create more rapid feedback loops on our initiatives and on things that we're trying, the failures aren't as devastating, and they become learning, and they become opportunities to iterate and to pivot, and to learn from mistakes while still moving forward. Too often we're hiding results until the very end, and then there's a point in time evaluation that says you should have stopped years ago. But if we're learning from it on an ongoing basis, and we have an established theory of change that we can measure against, we can pivot and we can change, and we can adapt to new information.
Yeah, so move fast, maybe not break things. That's the difference. Now that the virtualization is coming down on the ground, you don't want to lose your job or your home or your clean air. So, I mean, we need to move fast without breaking things, which cities are, there for. So Ugo, building as many cities, very fast actually is a challenge we've never tried before. Cities come slow, mostly. Well, they used to. Vincent, Yasunori, Ugo, you want to give a sort of final recommendation or wish? This is your moment.
Well, just to confirm that it's very great satisfaction to hear what has been said in the last discussion. Especially, it's very important to hear that from public actors, to have this concept that we apply as entrepreneurs in our daily lives, the concept of scale fast and fail fast and scale fast. That's very important. And this concept of water as compared to data as a minimum viable ingredient. Very inspiring for the future. Thank you.
Well, that's good. We need that energy. I think. Yasunori, any final?
Yes, I just try to be very simple. I really agree on that. And MVP and fail fast and this kind of stuff is really a new type of culture in trying to bring, create something. In the past, we used to follow on a different type of practice, at least in the business. But this is that type of culture is very important, and there must be a struggle to bring this implemented in lots of the parts of the world. But yeah, that's really needed. Indeed, I agree. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ugo.
It's I really appreciate this this opportunity. This festival has been wonderful. Just to let you know that I've got plenty of feedback from from my team on that side, saying that. So congrats on that. Really appreciate that. And hopefully we will all collaborate between each other at different levels, from a company level, from a city level, from a public server level. But the most important ingredient is that we need to make sure that the citizenship is involved here. And we all know that everything that happens bottom up is always better. So if we can put our grain of salt to help on that, that will be wonderful. We need to make this understandable for the citizen, not to use jargon to seem cooler, but to do stuff that really matters and that really help us live a better life. So that's what I would love to have.
Just to be totally transparent, Ugo, we love your team. Regards to Sonia and Eva. And we hope to see you again in Barcelona in November. I will put it in my calendar. And that being said, I would like to thank all of you once again for making this is my first CxC festival as executive director, as fun, and as, I don't know, it's been really inspiring. And for that, I thank you. And that being said, we've been talking about failure. We've been talking about it's better to be number 2 than number 1, which is a very, very pragmatic decision I can get behind on. And I think my background is, again, on strategic engagement. And I feel like at the bottom line, we just have to talk to one another. and discuss things in the open. And I think that's where the value of the Smart City Expo, for example, or even OASC, that's where our value lies. We provide those meeting places. We have to be seen as safe places where people can openly discuss not only problems, not only successes, but even more especially and more importantly, their failure. We have to learn not only what works, but what doesn't work so that others can avoid them. That's how you serve these. That's how you save on resources. Don't waste money and effort on things that don't work. And then maybe we can finally be on the path to real change. I'll turn it over now to Paulo.
Well, thank
really
you.
Still envious that you're in Porto. I have to go back to Finland tomorrow.
So very briefly, I just want to thank obviously the amazing work that your team, the OASC team, is doing, but at the same time, I would like to thank Joana Mendes. Olá, Joana. Joana is working on my side, helping me collecting the main takeaways of all the sessions. And well, I could share with you a huge kind of wrap up of everything that was discussed, but that's not my goal. We don't have time for that, but my goal is to inviting you to stay tuned, because we really would like to use all the, I'll say, great work that was done during all these 21 sessions in which we have discussed a lot of the challenges and on the other side, the opportunities that lies ahead of us. And we are using all this content to organize a working plan to explore with you, and obviously focusing on the demand sides, which are the cities, and using obviously the umbrella of the head of the chair of the cities council. And as I've said, we hope that we will be able to work with the cities, work with you during these next weeks, these next months, in preparing some, I would say, common working plan in order to explore all the amazing content that we have gathered from all these great sessions. So once again, thank you all for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to continue pushing towards this great goal that we all have in mind.
Thank you so much. And I just want to wrap up with two thanks, if I may, apart from, it's been great again. Well, one regret and two thanks. I miss you. I miss being there. We were so happy we could convene, some of us in Barcelona. It just makes a difference. Yes, Merlin, we can do a lot of things here. We can use ties that we have established, but establishing and strengthening these strong connections. We need broadband, and I don't mean fiber in the ground, if you understand, social broadband. My thanks goes to everyone who supported and participated in this. Of course, our members, our partners, the audience, the audiences, because of course, if you're seeing this at a later time, well, you're still here in that from the future. But then I'd also like to thank you, Geni, and the team. So Sarah, Rina, Michael, the angels who have kept this. It is a small operation, and still, because of the community, we are here. And it's been a challenging year for everyone. We hope to see, the sun out very soon. So with that wish for all of us, all the many billions that, in fact, I think we represent when we spend time here. I thank you all for being part of this C@C festival, and see you soon. I hereby declare the festival for over. Thank you so much for coming.